think. Great. So, Paula, the audience here is truly international. We have people from Asia, North America, obviously Europe. Just could you say a little bit about the EMA, CAT, and advanced therapy medicinal products, just so we set the stage, okay, please? Is that okay?
Thank you. First of all, the EMA was established as a kind of a coordination body and evaluation body for all new innovative medicines in Europe.
So this was the old EMEA, in fact, wasn't it?
EMEA in the beginning, but now EMA.
FDA equivalent.
Kind of.
Kind of, okay.
Okay, and EMA has 6 committees with different tasks. 2 of them are dedicated for evaluation of new medicinal product applications, and those are the Committee for Human Medicinal Products, CHMP, and the other one is Committee for Advanced Therapies, CAT.
And that's the committee
that's
which
the
you
committee, yes. And in 2009, this CAT was established to do the primary assessment of the new products in this area, and together with the Committee for Human Medicinal Products, CHMP, we are providing the EMA opinion for European Commission for the final decision.
So basically, at a country level, say in the MHRA in the UK, they would help put together the paperwork and everything, or rather run the trials, control the trials for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. When that dossier is ready, a bit like filing a BLA in the States,
yes,
that would then go to the CAT, for
yes,
opinion,
yes,
which then goes on to the EMA.
Yes,
goes
CHMP.
And then on to EMA.
Looks the opinion and
Right.
provides the final opinion to the European Commission, yes.
And the Commission has the final say on it, which is,
yes,
again, unlike the FDA in that respect.
Yes, and in all committees we have representation from all member states. So
Right, okay.
also in CAT we have members and alternates from all 28 European countries, and then we have additionally 4 members which are nominated by the European Commission, and they are 2 of them representing patient representatives, patient organizations, and 2 are representing clinicians. So in total we have 32 members in the committee.
And the CAT is actually available for informal discussions. Is that,
yes.
I was very impressed. I went with a project earlier this year, and we had an informal discussion,
yes,
and that was really informative. Could you just say a little bit about how that works?
So CAT has also other tasks than only the marketing authorization evaluations. We are taking part of different kinds of procedures, for example, scientific advice, as we already heard from the last interview, and we are taking part to innovation task for meetings, which most probably has the one that you have attended. So those are informative.
We had 1 hour. We prepared some questions.
Yes.
We came along,
yes,
and it was an informal discussion.
It is a dialogue.
Yes, it was dialogue, and I can't
dialogue.
recommend that too highly. It was really outstanding. Paul Kemp put it together for us, and it was a super meeting and really useful. And I don't know if enough people take advantage. I don't think they know actually.
That might be the case that it's.
So I'm advertising that. Okay, that's something. Yeah, if you've got a therapy. Any stage or?
Any stage.
Any stage.
Yes.
And I think it was a simple form. Paul actually did it all for us and filled it all out for our consortium. But it was quite quick. We got to see you within, I think, a few months.
Yes.
It wasn't advice as such. It was a general discussion, enabled us to shape the project. Okay. And then you do paid for sessions as well, is that right? Or have I got that in?
No, those are when you are having scientific advice, there can be a discussion meeting with the company. And then that
so if a company comes and they want something more, they want real advice, then that's a paid for, but that is available as well.
Yes,
okay.
definitely.
And when should companies do that?
Particularly before going to phase 3 confirmatory trials, I would say that when you really need a binding kind of a high-level overview of your clinical studies that you have conducted thus far, and going further to the phase 3.
So you can actually take data at that stage from those earlier studies, and so have some sort of feel what your phase 3, how it ought to look, and if it does look in the way you think, then it's got a reasonable chance of being approved. Is that that's the idea of that? Is it? Okay.
And always it is possible to have questions from all sectors. You can ask quality questions, non-clinical questions, and also clinical questions.
And for the cell therapy companies, has that been have people taken advantage of that or not?
Oh yes, I think that we have had something like 165 different ATMP products
Wow.
In scientific advice during the past years, and I think it's all the way increasing.
And without no names, but I mean, are they from within Europe or are they from outside?
Both.
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 Even mix?
Yes.
Great, that's very encouraging. So that could be a product that's already got an FDA approval, wishing to come to Europe, for example.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, fine. That's really.
And one more thing, there is a possibility to have a joint scientific advice between EMA and FDA. So if you are developing a product that you intend to have in both markets, it's perhaps a very good idea to consider a joint scientific advice, because then you can address the same questions to both of the authorities at the same time.
Very powerful. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, that's very good. I mean, those are all very positive things, but we also in Europe seem to have a lot of negative feelings about regulation. I just want to talk about a few of those areas which I know are a concern to the industry. So hospital exemption I'd like to talk about, but then I also want to talk about something more positive, conditional market authorisation. So let's take the one that's perceived negatively, and just could you talk a little bit about hospital exemption and some of the pros and cons of the way that's moved?
Hospital exemption was established because of the fact that at the time of the legislation came into force, we already had some products on national markets. And they were mainly tissue engineering products. And there was a lot of wish to maintain a possibility for national use of these products and not to go to the very tedious centralized procedure immediately when you are having some information that this product might work. And there was also a strong wish from some member states to have a national marketing authorization. So as a compromise, the European Parliament, and with the help from the member states, there was a decision made that this kind of small-scale manufacturing license for very early use of these products in clinical setting could be allowed. And that's why this came into force. But because it's an exemption from our legislation on medicinal products, it's allowing a national implementation, which has led to the disharmonization, and perhaps this is the negative point that people are perceiving and the developers are seeing. If some countries are having more flexible requirements for the hospital exemption than the others. And I think that the key question at the moment is that if we have already a product that has a marketing authorization in Europe, whether there could be exactly similar products under hospital exemption, because that will be demolishing the grounds for commercial
Oh, I see.
use.
So if you got an approved product, then the other hospital exemptions the hospital exemptions for the same type of product
Yes.
would then no longer apply?
Yes.
Could no longer apply
exactly for
if there's
the
a
same
change?
indication.
Right,
So,
okay. And is that likely to change? I mean, because at the moment that's not the case, is it?
Yeah, this is we are still having the very liberal policy within the member states. There is no strict rules from the Commission on this aspect, and you may have seen that there was a Commission report that came out in was it end of April? Picking up all these problematic points and making already some proposals for future, and I would expect that the ATMP regulation will be opened up and that we go through it very carefully and correct those points that are considered as problematic.
Because at the moment there is this sort of conflict between commercialization companies who want to build great companies, they get it approved, say in the UK or Holland, and then they wish to then go to different member states, and some are very receptive, but those with a hospital exemption product, the price difference is massive between the regulated product, because it's gone through all the clinical trials, as you know, and the product which is produced locally, which may be every bit as good, but hasn't got that proven track record. And we're comparing those two, and that's very difficult.
Yes.
And so that's really, I think, some of the issues.
Yes. So when I hope that it will be opened up, and when it happens, I suggest that all of you who are taking part, if you are developing new products, please take care and comment when the new drafts are coming out. So because that is very important time to
Absolutely
have influence
vital.
on the legislation.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a great opportunity ahead of us.
And when do we expect that opportunity to comment?
Now that the new parliament will be elected in May, we need some time from the new commission that will be built, a signal that this legislation is open, and it takes some time before the draft is put together by the European Commission, but I'm sure that you all will be informed from that. There is one possibility for everyone. If you want to take part to the, or if you want to be on the first boundary of information, you can join the we have interested parties in the CAT, which is kind of a coalition of all stakeholders that want to follow what is happening, not in the CAT and EMA only, but also on the Commission level. So we are sending all the information to the interested parties, and we are expecting to hold one IP meeting later on this year. Okay. And whenever there is something important coming from our guidances or from legislation, we are informing all those stakeholders that are on those lists. So if you are interested, join our IP in EMA.
Yeah, no, and I think most people in this room either, do notice what's going, but also are members of trade associations like the BIA or the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. Move on to a bit more positive. I mean, one of the big challenges, and we'll hear it from a little bit later from Dr. Hirata from Japan, is that regulation and reimbursement are two key areas that very much go together. And one thing that lets reimbursement occur is getting some sort of early marketing authorization. And in the EU, we have conditional marketing authorization, which many people think of, it's the way of getting a vaccine approved, I think, is generally what's perceived. But this could be a route for cell therapies. Could you talk a little bit about conditional marketing authorization and maybe why we haven't used it, or is it not something that's appropriate even?
Conditional marketing authorization, and we have another one called approval under exceptional circumstances.
Yes,
so these two are developed for certain conditions. So you have to have an indication that is for unmet medical needs or very highly debilitating
Which
condition.
is true of most cell therapies, not all, but a good chunk of cell therapies are. So we fit that one, tick, okay.
And there are other conditions that have to be fulfilled before you are eligible for these procedures. But for ATMPs, there are actually other measures available, like we have the possibility to have post-authorization efficacy studies, which was not possible for other medicinal products before. But now, with the new legislation on pharmacovigilance, it has become possible to other MPs as well. So that means that for example, for tissue engineering products where you may need very long follow-up studies, you might be given the authorization at the time when the benefit-risk profile is positive, but we need some extra follow-up of the patient still. Those studies could be put into the risk management plan and followed afterwards. So we have this flexibility already built in for ATMPs, and I think that this conditional approval is not the only one.
Right, okay.
You may also know that EMA is piloting a procedure called adaptive licensing.
Yep. I was going to ask you that next, so perfect. Yeah.
So here we have already asked companies to provide...
Could you say a bit about adaptive licensing, because this is really innovative. Could you just talk about how it works?
So the adaptive licensing was considered that, I personally think that it is pretty much like we have for conditional approval, that you might be given the license already with less data and required to give further data after the approval. But for this adaptive licensing, we need to classify the product. We have to generate the criteria for those products that will be eligible for this process, and that work is currently undergoing, and we have the first pilot cases, and I can assure that there are also ATMPs in there.
Great. And adaptive licensing, has this been tried elsewhere?
Well, I think that the US system for breakthrough therapies
is very similar.
A little bit similar.
But cell therapy haven't used that route from what I can see, or there's nothing been approved as a breakthrough therapy. And whereas this is And the worry with the breakthrough one is that if the company doesn't get it, it looks like they've been knocked back, and that's bad for their investors. I mean, that's always a risk. Is that something which we perceive maybe seen as something people maybe don't take up, say, adaptive licensing?
Well, I cannot say for sure how it's going to go, because we have to see the first cases, how if it's possible to go this way.
But would it be for there'll be a criteria, say, large
Yes.
unmet medical need?
Yes, definitely.
A list of things which people can,
yes.
some sort of transparency, so they can really see, well, we would have a reasonable chance
Yes.
of getting
Yep.
through that. And
Yep.
would an informal meeting with CAT be possible to discuss that prior to putting in an application?
Definitely when we go that far, when we have the first pilot cases and we have everything set up, I think that it is imperative that we have dialogue with the multiple contacts with the developers to follow what they have in hands, so that there are not disappointments at the time.
Yes, I mean, it is about de-risking
yes,
it. I mean,
yes.
because it maybe they can do some additional steps which gives it more chance going through.
Yes,
Because
sure.
I understand, or I know you as the CAT would rather see things progress
Yeah.
rather than being knocked back. And I
Definitely.
think that's the point. Regulators are not, whoa, stop. It's very much, how can we progress things? And I see that
Yes.
with yourselves, and I see that also with certain members of the FDA. Talking about the international regulators, and you mentioned the possibility of having a combined FDA, EMA, CAT opinion to make progress. Relationships with FDA and with Japan, with MHLW, are those something which are being built more and more, and is there some sort of framework for doing that in place? Because I think that's the big three: Japan, Europe, US, Canada. Four, rather.
Yes, we have dialogue with the US and Health Canada regulatory authorities in this area every second month. So we have CAT meetings every month, and bi-monthly we are having teleconferences with the US and Health Canada authorities.
Mm-hmm.
We have also established for ATMPs a regulators forum, which is trying to have face-to-face meetings every year, but in between we are also having teleconferences, and we are changing information, what kind of new products are coming and what kind of new regulations, new guidelines, and we also try to harmonize some aspects which we could but we are far from ICH, for example, for ATMPs, because we have so different starting points. Like for US, some of the products that we consider tissue engineering, they have been on device basis, and these kind of problems are still there, but we are trying to look where we have mutual understandings and where we could go for even.
And dialogue with Japan. I noticed you talking to Dr. Hirato a few minutes ago. I mean, is that something which the EMA would like to take up? I mean, UK is very keen to work with Japan, the companies
yes, but
themselves.
in this regulators forum, we have all the Asian countries as
so
well.
they're within that regulator, so
yes,
it's a really combined
that's a
forum.
global.
And how does that work out? Because regulation is, there's different levels throughout the world of regulation. You can get your cell therapies through it with different levels of showing different levels of safety and efficacy. So I would assume across that regulators forum there is quite a spectrum of ease, let's say, of getting a product over. How do you deal with that? Because we want safe, effective therapies.
Yes,
I mean, that's what we want.
So we are not aiming at having the same standards, because that's clearly not the case, not possible at the moment.
No, I agree.
But,
wouldn't be pragmatic.
But we are trying to learn from each other and understanding the viewpoints from different colleagues in different market areas and where they are coming from, and discussing a lot why we have concerns on certain topics and where we could perhaps be less concerned, and if there is a lot of information from other market areas for certain type of products, we exchange information. So as
how long has this been going? I mean, this group?
The Regulators Forum was established 2 years ago.
Right.
3 years ago, I think, was the first meeting. And last year we met in the margins of the Auckland ISCT meeting. And this year we are meeting in Singapore in the beginning of July.
And have you started to see change in practice between the? Have you started to see change in practice at all during that time? I know it's very short, but
maybe not yet. It takes so long time to change legislation and the grounds for your guidances that you can do. But I think that we are in a good start at the
Great.
moment, I would say.
Okay, we've just got a few moments left. The majority of people in this room are commercial organisations, and I mean, what advice would you give commercialisations with respect to, you know, getting their product or streamlining their products as they take it through the regulatory process? What do you see as the things that people do not do as well as they could, that they could improve upon, and maybe, you know, that's the advice that we would like?
First of all, I think that everyone should go to dialogue with the regulators very early on.
That's
so
with CAT, is it? That's with the CAT.
Not
That's,
necessarily
oh, you mean
before
your
we
country regulators?
Yes,
Fine.
if you are in very early development, please contact even your own national regulators, because they can provide you help and assistance, and scientific advice is much cheaper than you get from the EMA level. And those are, of course, when you are going to EMA, you get the viewpoint from all member states, but the same colleagues that will be giving you advice in the national basis, they are sitting in the CAT most probably. So anyway, we have quite harmonized viewpoints in the committee.
So go early for advice.
Go early,
okay.
yes, very early. And second thing is that I would encourage you to consider the quality issues very thoroughly early on. ATMPs are different from other medicinal products. It is very difficult to build the quality little by little along with your clinical information, because and clinical data, because for ATMPs most probably you need to fix the quality quite early on, and then with this quality you go for the non-clinical and clinical studies, and only with this way you will get really robust and meaningful results.
Great. Okay. Paula, thank you very much. That was a lot of really nice insight. Thank you very, very much.